Well, for the year's rally, what surprised me is that the many reasons to be bullish on gold, which are coming into play now, like the weakening labor market, the signs of the continuing manufacturing recession, yes, the global recession, which is harder to deny than the U.S. troubles and so on. All of that is very bullish on gold, but gold went up before these things became manifest. So that was a surprise. And we now, in hindsight, have a pretty good idea that it was central bank gold buying. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't new, but it escalated and it became a bigger factor than I anticipated. Like really, the central bank gold buying shifted gears with the invasion of Ukraine, now 3 years ago, right? So that wasn't new, and I didn't expect it to really change the market this year. Like, why would that become a hockey stick event in 2024 when the war started 2 years before? But it did. So that surprised me. But fortunately, it was a good surprise. It helped. And the good news for gold bugs is that sort of set a higher floor. Like all the reasons that I was bullish for gold for this year, they're now, I think, coming into play. We're seeing them in the economic data. But instead of gold being 1900 or 2000, it's 25, 26, 20. Right now, we're headed back for 27 as you and I speak. So, it makes me nervous. It's much more comfortable to be a gold bull when it's down. Oh, it's going to go up than it's near all-time highs. But for what it's worth, dear audience, I do think that all those things that made me bullish on gold, they're still on the table. They're visibly coming into play now. That we're going into it from a higher base. It makes me nervous, right? But it also means that the upside there. I mean, think about it. It's not just tinfoil hat Lobo who says that gold's going higher. It's J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs is agreeing with them about $3,000 gold. I just saw an article today, a very silly article about some AI predicts when gold will hit $3,000, which like one AI was asked a certain question that gave this answer. It's like, but it must be a good prediction if AI predicted. It's just so silly.
Yeah.
But right? Well, I'll tell you. But it's interesting that if you're going to grab a headline, you want to include what? AI and gold. So that tells you something about it's a sign of the times that somebody thought they could grab headline attention by including AI and gold. And B, the nature of the question wasn't when is gold going back to 2000. The question was, when will it hit 3,000? When will it go up more? So, I mean, this is out there. This is becoming one of those ideas whose time has come. For what it's worth, this particular AI predicted December of next year.
Interesting.
I think it could happen this year.
Okay.
I mean, but I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying the right things happen, the right scary event in the Middle East or Ukraine or whatever. Sign of the times. I'm very bullish on gold. And it's exciting and a little bit scary that we're going into such a bullish context from an already high gold-dollar exchange rate. But I see it the way I see it, so I'm putting more money on the table on this bet. In the first place, the immediate knee-jerk reaction was 50% reverse the next day.
Yeah.
Like it dropped $80 on the day, and the next day it rose $40 intraday. So you could see that this was not a well thought out. It's not like investors around the world said, "Oh, yeah, Trump got elected. I think the world just became a safer place. I don't need no stinking safe havens." That's not what happened.
Right.
I think partly there was just some knee-jerk reaction, and then there was also just models updated. The Trump election wasn't really a surprise. Even the mainstream was telling us razor-thin margin, like he could have won the whole time along. The surprise was the red sweep. And I think that caused some investors, institutional investors, to tweak their models, and the algos went nuts, as they always do, right? And they trip each other and, triggers happen. So I absolutely would not make too much of that initial noise. It's very significant to me that, not just the day after was much of it reversed. In the weeks after, we've seen more reversals, ups and downs. But this is significant. And, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe any politician. I'm not being particularly harsh on Trump. I said the same things about Biden or whatever, but he's a politician, right? Campaign promises are made to be broken. So I think it's a mistake as an investor, not this isn't a political statement. As an investor, I think it's a mistake to make huge investment bets based on what was promised on the campaign trail. I think this is just a fact of human history. That if there is such a thing as a fact of human nature, this is one. Don't believe campaign promises. But we're now starting to get data. We're starting to see who's being nominated. This tells us something about what the agenda actually will be. But even then, an agenda is not a fact. So I think the wise thing for investors to do, and wait till we see what actually starts getting implemented. That becomes investable. Right now, it's pretty scary. It's a lot of noise. And I'm happy to see that gold's come back again. If I was a Bitcoin maxi, I would be terrified with how quickly Bitcoin has stormed up to almost six figures here as you and I speak, because it's based on campaign promises. Right? If it was up because of, I don't know, some new shift fundamentally in the market or a fact, like
Michael Saylor.
Well, if Michael Saylor wasn't buying Bitcoin by borrowing money, I'd be more excited about that. I mean, clearly it's a lot of money and enough to move even that market. But it's kind of hype too.
Yeah.
Right? But if we did see a new end user like the United States government, not just sequester the Bitcoin it has, as Trump promised, but starts buying Bitcoin, taking it off the market, that would be an investable fact in my view. Whereas right now, it would just make me very nervous it would feel like FOMO. If I bought Bitcoin because it's this close to 100,000, 100,000 could be the very thing that triggers some whales to take profits. And then that trigger stops in other people. And who knows where it goes after that. So very dangerous. This is not an anti-Bitcoin comment, audience. I'm just saying, and I said this about uranium,